Nagkasakit o naaksidente ka sa work? Oh no! Buti na lang, andyan ang ECC. Ang ECC o Employees Compensation Commission ay ang government agency na nagpapatupad ng ECP o Employees Compensation Program. Ito ay karagdagang benefits in case ikaw ay magkasakit o maaksidente dahil sa work. Pero kahit may ECC, laging tatandaan na safety should still be your top priority. Kailan nga ba maaaring mag-file at mag-claim ng ECP benefits? Number 1, kung ikaw ay naaksidente sa workplace. Number 2, kung ikaw ay naaksidente habang nagtatrabaho. Number 3, kung ikaw ay naaksidente kahit wala ka sa workplace dahil sa utos ng boss mo. Number 4, kung ikaw ay naaksidente papunta o pauwi galing trabaho. Pwede ka mag-claim ng ECP benefits kung walang diversion sa ruta mo papunta o pauwi. Dapat ay bahay-work o work-bahay lang. Number 5, pwede ka rin mag-claim ng ECP benefits kung ikaw ay naaksidente habang sakay ng company vehicle. Number 6, counted pa rin kung ikaw ay naaksidente sa activities ng company. Halimbawa, sa mga company team building at sports fest. At last but not the least, kung ikaw ay nakaranas ng assault habang ginagampanan mo ang trabaho mo. Kapag ikaw naman ay nagkasakit dahil sa trabaho, pwede kang mag-claim ng ECP benefits kung ang conditions of compensability ay nasatisfied mo base sa listahan ng occupational and work-related diseases. Pag ang sakit mo ay di kasama sa listahan, pwede pa rin ito maging compensable sa ilalim ng tinatawag natin na increased risk theory. Una, kung ang working conditions ay may health risks na nagiging sanhi ng sakit. Pangalawa, kung ang sakit ay nakuha mo dahil exposed ka sa mga health risks na ito. At pangatlo, kung nagkasakit ka kahit na sinusunod mo naman ang safety measures and precaution ng kumpanya. Samantala, meron naman tayong tinatawag na excepting circumstance o yung mga pagkakataon na hindi ka pwedeng mag-claim ng EC benefits. Kung ikaw ay lasing o langgo sa alak o drugs habang nagtatrabaho at naaksidente ka. No yan! Hindi ka rin pwedeng mag-claim ng ECP kung ikaw ay nagpabaya o notoriously negligent ka kaya ka naaksidente o nagkasakit. Halimbawa ay ang hindi pagsunod sa safety precautions ng kumpanya o hindi pagsuot ng protective gear. Hindi rin valid ang claim kung sinasadya mong saktan ang sarili mo o ang iba na naging sanhi ng aksidente o sakit. Bad yun! Laging tandaan na safety should always be your first priority kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sa trabaho. Kapag aksidente di maiwasan, don't worry! Andyan ang ECC to help you! For more information, pumunta lang sa pinakamalapit na ECC office sa inyong lugar. Remember, kahit may ECC, lagi ka pa rin mag-ingat ha!
Ang safety and health sa trabaho ay ating karapatan.
Ang safety and health sa trabaho ay ating responsibilidad.
Ang pagiging safe and healthy sa trabaho ay ating priority.
Ang safety at health sa trabaho ay para sa ating mga mahal sa buhay.
Para sa pamilya,
Dapat iwas sakit at disgrasya.
Pagligtas at malusog sa trabaho,
Pamilya ang panalo.
The Philippines is a home for more than 900,000 business enterprises and almost 8 million skilled and talented workers. To help these enterprises become competitive while ensuring the protection of workers' rights and benefits, the National Wages and Productivity Commission and the 17 regional tripartite wages and productivity boards, recreated in July 1989 through Republic Act 6727 or the Wage Rationalization Act. The NWPC at the national level acts as an advisory body to the President and Congress on all matters pertaining to wages, incomes, and productivity. The RTWPBs, on the other hand, are mandated to fix minimum wages from private sector and promote productivity and improvement at the regional, industry, and enterprise levels pursuant to policies and guidelines issued by the NWPC. At the same time, the NWPC and the RTWPBs are also mandated under Republic Act 6971 or Productivity Incentives Act to provide technical assistance to enterprises and the development and implementation of productivity improvement programs. Our vision: justly remunerated and productive Filipino workforce in globally competitive enterprises. Our mission: set minimum wage that protects workers' welfare, promote enterprise and workers' productivity. To realize the vision and mission, the NWPC and RTWPBs are implementing the following programs. First is a policy shift to adapt the two-tiered wage system, which provides for the mandatory minimum wage and voluntary productivity-based pay. The TTWS framework defines the space from the minimum wages as above poverty threshold but lower than average wage. While for the second tier, the NWPC encourages and enables workers and enterprises to implement productivity improvement and performance incentivizing scheme. To support these, the NWPC and the 17 regional boards nationwide are implementing the Productivity Toolbox, a ladderized needs-based approach to productivity improvement for MSMEs. It is a package of training and technical assistance designed to help MSMEs grow, expand, and become viable enterprises, creating more employment opportunities and additional income for our workers. Beneficiaries of the training programs can join the Productivity Olympics, a biennial national competition of the best productivity improvement practices from micro, small, and medium enterprises. To popularize these programs and educate clients on wages and productivity, the NWPC and RTWPBs are implementing a rigorous public awareness campaign to the Kaalaman sa Kita at Kakayanan program, which includes public information assistance, development and dissemination of IEC materials, learning sessions, lectures, seminars, and mass media campaign. As the needs of the enterprises and workers change, the NWPC and RTWPBs are also continually promoting programs and policies on wages, incomes, and productivity that are to help drive the economic growth and improve productivity and competitiveness of the country.
A pleasant morning to all of us. Department of Labor and Employment Convergence of Programs, DOLE and its attached agencies, namely the Regional Conciliation and Mediation Board 10, Occupational Safety and Health Center 10, Employees Compensation Commission 10, and Regional Tripartite Wages Board 10, gives our utmost pleasure to welcome you all and have accepted our invitation in attending today's first of the 5 sessions of webinar with the theme COVID-19 in the Workplace, Combating Challenges, Discovering Opportunities. I am your moderator for today, Labor Information Officer Mildred E.W. I would like to acknowledge our resource speaker for today, the DOLE 10 Regional Director himself, Atty. Joffrey M. Suyao, Regional Conciliation and Mediation Board of Region 10 Director, Atty. Ligaya R. Lubay. Also, we are very happy to note that by heeding our call, we have the maximum number of slots of attendees today, composed of employers, workers, and workers' organizations from our private sector. As the first of the 5 sessions, today's webinar session will formally launch the DOLE Labor Management Cooperation Convergence of Programs webinar series that features lectures on general labor standards, occupational safety and health standards, latest issuances, and other work-related COVID-19 pandemic issues. The aim of our government that as you complete our sessions, you will be able to increase your awareness, work ethics, values, and skills to contribute in fostering a more cooperative labor management relations and the attainment of decent and productive work despite the ill effects of COVID-19 pandemic. To officially welcome us all, let me give you RCMD Tech Director, Atty. Ligaya R. Lubay, one of the organizers of DOLE Convergence of Programs. Atty. Lubay, please.
Good morning, our valued social partners. We would like to welcome you in this new normal platform. Today, we officially launched the webinar series on Department of Labor and Employment Convergence of Programs to address decent work deficits, increase productivity, improve harmonious labor management relationships, and maintain industrial peace. All programs and services of the Department of Labor and Employment, National Conciliation and Mediation Board, the Regional Tripartite Wages Productivity Board, Occupational Safety and Health Center, and Employee Compensation Commission shall be converged and delivered to you through series of webinars. Despite these challenges during this pandemic, we need to continuously foster a culture of social dialogue through the plant-level Labor Management Cooperation or Council, or LMC, or any workplace cooperation and partnership bipartite mechanism in the workplace, as this will open up opportunities that will improve the general well-being of our employees and employers and of their families. The members of the Convergence team prepared various topics that will suit the needs of the workers, unions, management, employers, as part of our continuing labor education amidst the COVID-19 crisis. For this series, we prepared 5 sessions. Session 1 will be today, to be given by our DOLE Regional Director, Atty. Joffrey M. Suyao. Atty. Suyao will discuss on the latest labor advisory issuances of the department. Session 2 will be on 7S of good housekeeping, setting the pathway to a safe workplace in the period of pandemic. This will be on July 30, 2020. On August 3, it will be on webinar on compliance to safety and health in the workplace and updates on the latest issuances of the Employees Compensation Commission, or the ECC. And for session 4, this will be on August 12. It will be on self-checking behaviors and best practices and positive mental health. Webinar on work will be given. As mentioned, all participants will be given an e-certificate of participation after submitting back the feedback or evaluation form. Will also receive an e-certificate of completion after the final episode of Series 1. Indeed, the pandemic changes us, but I still believe that this current situation is not our permanent destination. Let us continue taking care of each other, and let us pray harder that we will overcome this pandemic the soonest. To all of you, thank you very much for engaging with us. God bless.
Thank you, Director Lumbay, for your warm message and giving the overview of our 5 sessions. Okay, let me present today's topics. Director Suyao will discuss the latest DOLE issuances through Labor Advisory numbers 9, 17, and 18, all in the series of 2020. Okay, to proceed to our first topic, ladies and gentlemen, Director Joffrey M. Suyao will now present and discuss the labor advisories.
Good morning, everyone. We thank the team of Director Lumbay of NCMB for making this webinar possible. The Department of Labor and Employment, together with its attached agencies like the National Conciliation and Mediation Board, the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board, the Employees Compensation Commission, and of course, even the Occupational Safety and Health Center, and all other attached agencies of the Department of Labor and Employment are glad. We are glad to offer you this webinar. I guess this is all, as mentioned by Director Lumbay, this is already our new normal of delivering our labor and employment education services to everyone. This is done because, of course, we know that we have to observe minimum health protocols, and we could not deliver our regular services the normal way like we were doing prior to the pandemic. We are constrained, of course, to observe the IATF protocols, and this would include all other protocols aside from the minimum health protocols that the IATF is espousing or mandating us to comply with. With limitations on movement, on travel, and even on close contacts, this new technology is very apt during these days, and we are in the Department of Labor and Employment are leveraging on this opportunity so that we would be able to continue our engagement with you, our stakeholders from the employer sector, the worker sector, and all of our stakeholders from the people's organizations, even the non-government organizations, and even from the government sector. And today, what I am going to be presenting to you are latest issuances that would actually support the Department of Labor and Employment's mantra during this pandemic, which is preservation of employment. We not only, our lives have actually been the way we do things, even the businesses have already been disrupted by the pandemic. The government has actually mandated community quarantines and non-operation of our businesses, such that only essential businesses have been allowed to open during the pandemic, especially during the height of the community quarantines in late March, April, and May of this year. Only in June, when the government had actually allowed, slowly and in phasing the opening of the other businesses aside from the identified essential services. So that is why during the height of the pandemic and during the height rather of the community quarantines, we were forced to stay at home, and only a handful of our workers were allowed to go out and go to work. So at the time when our economy is already slowly being opened, and this opening of our economy is actually, as our IATF and our government is saying, this is a balancing act between our health concerns that we have to protect everyone, all citizens of this country, from this deadly virus. But of course, at the same time, we could not also afford to totally close down, as we are already experiencing very difficult times and an backlash in the economy of our region and in the entire country. We are just maybe lucky enough, no, to have or still manage to, for example, when it comes to our labor force survey conducted by the Philippine Statistics Authority in April of this year at the height of the quarantines. Our PSA has actually released already the latest labor force survey conducted during that time in April of 2020. And although we in Region 10 recorded still the highest employment rate in the entire country, we are #1 in terms of employment in the entire country. But we could not fully celebrate because still our numbers are down. And this is quite historical because we lost about 11% of our workers. No? Although this is the highest in the country, but still it is a very significant loss in employment during the height of the pandemic. And we could just imagine, of course, when the July survey is conducted on how are we faring? Are we still doing good when in terms of employment, when we are already and slowly receiving reports from our employers on their decision to permanently retrench or reduce the number of their workers, or worse, they have already decided to permanently close their businesses. And so the Department of Labor and Employment is actually monitoring and encouraging the employers to submit your reports, because this is very important information, not only to the Department of Labor and Employment, but of course to the Regional Development Council of this region, as we in the government, including the private sector partners, no, are in one, no, to improve, no, the economic lives of our people in the region, including the workers, amidst the challenges that the pandemic has brought us. And so going forward, we in the Department of Labor and Employment is really bent on campaigning to everyone that we have to preserve whatever employment gains that we have now. If we are in the region still doing good when it comes to our employment rate, despite the great loss of employment, as the numbers would show, we, especially in this office, are espousing alternative ways on how we could further preserve whatever employment we have now and minimize reduction of workforce and minimize the backlash of the economic downturn brought about by the pandemic. And so among all the several labor advisories, department orders that the Department of Labor has issued this year, we have decided to present as an initial update to you, no? Three very important labor advisories. This would be Labor Advisory number 9 on flexible work arrangement, Labor Advisory number 17 on encapsulating the Department of Labor Employment's program on preservation of employment, and of course, um, of course, no. These are just the three labor advisories that we would like to present. This is an initial presentation, but we would like to solicit your recommendations later on, maybe in the chat group, in the chat box, or in your in the yes, in the chat box, you could actually provide us a recommendation on what are the things that still you or you would like us to discuss during the coming sessions of our future sessions of this webinar or activity. As Director Lumbay said, this is just the first series or set of webinar. We have already scheduled to you the first 5 sessions, and your recommendations would actually, for the next set of sessions, which will be conducted maybe by starting end of August, will be very helpful. So now, if we could show the first slide, this is on Labor Advisory number 9. This would provide everyone guidance on our implementation of flexible work arrangement as a remedial measure due to the ongoing outbreak of COVID-19. So, as the title itself is implying, this is a remedial measure. So the flexible work arrangements are actually as guidance only, and the recommendation of the Department of Labor and Employment. This is being issued because we want to preserve employment. As an alternative to total closure of business establishments, or as alternative to mass layoff of workers, the department is recommending why not adopt flexible work arrangements, because this would be a remedial measure and an alternative to mass loss, mass layoffs, and total closure. So the next slide would provide us the purpose. This is to assist and again guide the employers and the employees in the implementation of whatever type or combination of a flexible work arrangement that the establishment may adopt. So the second slide would provide us, next please, the kinds of the definition of what is flexible work arrangement. So this flexible work arrangement is simply a schedule of work other than the traditional standard of work. Again, because this is a remedial measure, this is also temporary in nature and subject to the prevailing conditions of the company. Next. But of course, aside from implementation of the recommended flexible work arrangements, which the company and the employees would adopt as a remedial measure, the companies and its employees are actually encouraged also to explore other alternative work arrangements, especially if these work arrangements would actually suit more to the company conditions. Next. So what are the recommended or examples rather of flexible work arrangements? This would be reduction of work hours or work days. So if the work hours, the normal work hours would be 8 hours, for example, or the work days, the regular work days would be in some companies 5 days, in other companies 6 days. As an alternative to total closure or to mass layoff, if the company is really struggling to survive during this pandemic, the management and the workers could actually explore on reduction of work hours or reduction of work days. Some companies actually are having difficulty to survive, for example, because of government measures being implemented, especially in LGUs. There are LGUs whose ordinances actually limit also the work hours of our workers. So instead of the company actually closing down on certain on a number of days, of course, because some malls, companies in malls actually just open at 10 o'clock in the evening and close at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. So that could not actually cover the full 8 hours of work. So a flexible work arrangement is actually being considered here, just so that the workers would have continued working hours and render next would be rotation of workers. So the workers could actually be rotated. This is an example wherein this is more popular rather in restaurants and dine-in establishments, for example, wherein there is still now a limitation on the seating capacity that our dine-in restaurants or even accommodation establishments could accommodate per day. So in this case, there would also be difficulty if, for example, companies or establishments are limited on the capacity at 50% or 70% or 75%, then it would also be very difficult for the company to maintain an operation of 100% of their employees, no? Also during those times, and especially if there is also a limitation as to the operating hours if curfews are still in place. So just for all employees to be given the chance to earn during a work week, for example, then the workers and the management may agree that the workers may be rotated. For example, the first 2 days or MWF would be for the first set of workers to report, and TTHS would be for the second set of workers to report. No? So this could also be an alternative arrangement that is other than the original or regular work arrangements that we used to have during normal times. And of course, for the forced leave option is also there, wherein instead of for workers who are not actually required to be present during certain days, they could actually be given the option, no, to apply remaining or any available leave credits, just so that during those days that they are not actually reporting, they still earn because they are using their leave credits. Because of course, the rule here usually, and in most companies, is that no work, no pay. If you do not report for work, then you don't have any pay or salary for that day. And so just for our workers who are actually not required to work on certain days, then the forced leave option is there so that our workers may use any available leave, if there is any, so that they would have they would have salary or compensation during those days that they are not at work. Next slide. And so the guidelines is urging and then for employers and employees to actually be responsible, in crafting your own policies on any flexible work arrangements that you would adopt. And of course, for any conflict, no, in the interpretation and implementation of this of the flexible work arrangement that the company is adopting, the usual our rule is that it should be treated as a grievance. So for companies who are organized or those who have in grievance machinery in place in your establishment, any differences, no, in the interpretation or differences in the implementation of the flexible work arrangement that has been adopted should be treated as a grievance and go through the established grievance machinery. And of course, after that, if still, even if still unresolved, no, if still unresolved despite referring the issue or concern to the grievance machinery, then it will go through the normal process under our rules and regulations, which is actually go from grievance machinery, it goes to the voluntary arbitration process under the rules of the National Conciliation and Mediation Board. How about the companies who have no established grievance machinery, or even if there is, but the grievance machinery is inadequate, then it should go to the Department of Labor and Employment's single entry approach program, which is the conciliation and mediation system of settling disputes under the Department of Labor and Employment. This is just a 30-day referral to the single entry approach desk officer. And if there is no settlement on the issues or differences that is brought to the SENA desk officer, then the next recourse would be to bring this to the National Labor Relations Commission through the regional arbitration branches of the NLRC. So this is how we would, the processes on how we would settle the differences in the implementation or interpretation of the flexible work arrangement that has been adopted by the companies. So in this case, because there are instances really that we anticipate differences in the interpretation or implementation of the flexible work arrangements adopted, we encourage that workers and employers or the parties to the flexible work arrangement would keep and maintain the documentary records to prove that such flexible work arrangement is adopted. First, of course, we would those documentary records would come from the consultations you have conducted, because it is in the labor advisory that any flexible work arrangements should go through consultation process, no, between management and our workers. Of course, the initiative usually the initiative would come from the management, because this is a management prerogative, being a remedial measure in times of crisis, wherein instead of management deciding to exercise its management prerogative of reducing the number of its workforce or implement a retrenchment program or totally close the company, then of course it instead of adopting those management prerogative, there is also this adoption of flexible work arrangement. That's why it usually is initiated by the management, and of course management is actually urged, no, and required, not just urged but required under the guidelines to conduct a consultation on the adoption of this flexible work arrangement, and any no, and all the results, no, during the consultation, work arrangements and how to implement these work arrangements could be agreed, no. When would it start? Actually, when would it end? Those are the things, some of the things, and the details, no, and the details of which, no, if for example, how do we select people who will go on a rotation, which would be which workers, for example, would go on rotation on certain number of days, and then the second set of workers. Those are the details that workers and employees, no, should agree, and such agreement would form part, and of course be reported to the Department of Labor and Employment, so that we could monitor if this is properly being implemented by the company as agreed, no. And so, but of course, whether or not to implement a flexible work arrangement is totally, again, a prerogative of the management. But consultations will be conducted so that proper implementation of this could actually be had. No? And of course, if there is, if the results of the consultation is not very clear, such that there is a deviation in the implementation, or there is a confusion on the proper implementation of the details of the implementation, then again, as we said, if there is a grievance machinery, then it goes to the grievance machinery, and if unresolved, it goes to the voluntary arbitration procedure under the National Conciliation and Mediation Board. If there is no grievance machinery, then it goes through the single entry approach under the Department of Labor and Employment for a 30-day conciliation and mediation process. And if there is no settlement in the SENA proceedings, then it goes through the National Labor Relations Commission Regional Arbitration Branch. So again, for companies who are adopting the flexible work arrangement, the advisory is saying that you post a copy of the advisory in conspicuous places within the workplace, no? So that all workers would know that such arrangements are being allowed and recommended by the Department of Labor and Employment as a coping mechanism in this time of crisis. And of course, so that the Department of the workers would know on what are the flexible arrangements that are all workers would be informed on what are the flexible work arrangements that are being implemented. And of course, the advisory also requires that the Department of Labor and Employment is notified as to the arrangement that is being adopted in the company. Because, of course, we are required to monitor and verify if the arrangement is being properly implemented. So we welcome everyone to, if there are more clarifications, there is a question and answer portion at the end of my presentations. And if there are further questions, then on screen is our email or our email addresses at the Department of Labor and Employment, including a number wherein you could call and pose any questions or concerns with regard to our advisory. And so please reserve your questions on the flexible work arrangement as contained in Labor Advisory number 9, because we will transition after a short video to further alternative work arrangements that are being recommended for adoption by our companies. So may we already view the next video because our next advisory, labor advisory, would be the Labor Advisory number 17 on employment preservation upon resumption of business operations. Okay, so that's a video on Labor Advisory number 17. We have actually made videos, no? Short videos that are posted in our website, in our Facebook page on labor education and employment, labor and employment education services. DOLE's Facebook page, and we are also we have also started to open also or create our YouTube account of the Department of Labor and Employment Region 10 so that we could actually post in these platforms all the labor labor and employment education materials that we are we have endeavored to create so that we could continue providing labor and employment information to everyone. So that video that we have just watched is on Labor Advisory number 17. This is the guidelines that has been issued by the Department of Labor and Employment on preservation of employment upon the resumption of business operation. So again, as a we have, as I have stated earlier during my opening statement, most of companies have already been were actually forced to temporarily close or temporarily shut down during the height of the pandemic, middle of March, whole of April, whole of the entire month of May, because we want to address the health concerns, preserve the health of our populace, and contain the spread of the virus, because foremost, of course, for the government is the health and safety of its population or its citizens. But of course, again, as I already mentioned, the government actually could not really afford also to, while preserving and while taking care of the health of our workers and all of the members of the population, we could not also let our economy go downturn, and hence a balancing act, though tough, must be made. That's why slowly the government, through the IATF's recommendation, has already allowed, aside from the essential industries, certain industries are already allowed to open. If you remember the IATF's guidelines, there is category 1, category 2, category 3, no? And category 4 of industries. So we are now actually on a phasing mode of opening our business, usually starting June of this year. And so for the resumption of business, although slowly, we have also seen that some businesses who, during the height of the pandemic in March, April, and May, were just deciding to temporarily close, temporarily close their businesses, have already decided to permanently close and or permanently reduce the number of their workforce, or let go or and retrench some of their employees as a coping mechanism of the companies, no? So that we know, as we all know, the concept of retrenchment, it is a last resort, no? All measures have already been considered, but as a last resort, the company has decided to let go or retrench some of the workers. So instead of doing that, again, as emphasis, the Department of Labor and Employment would like for us to maintain as much as possible and preserve our employment. And one way of the government measures in helping our industries is to provide you options. And aside from Department Order Labor Advisory number 9 that was just presented to you on flexible work arrangement, other employment preservation measures are being recommended under this Labor Advisory number 17. So who's covered under Labor Advisory number 17? So all employers in the private sector, no? Operating already or being allowed already to resume business operations. So if all employers who are already operating or already allowed to operate is covered by this labor advisory, of course, it includes their workers, no? Regardless of the status of employment of the workers, then they are allowed to, they are covered by this labor advisory. So again, we could not overemphasize the objective of the issuance of labor advisories number 9 and labor advisory number 17 on employment preservation measures. This is being issued, these advisories are being issued to assist our employers so that they could smoothly resume their business operations. And at the same time, while we assist them to resume business operations, our ultimate aim here is for the workers is to preserve the employment of, if not all, then majority of our workers. So first off, of course, is the mandatory observance of our companies, no? Not only the employers, but also all the workers in the workplaces, to follow or observe the minimum health standards. And the minimum health standards are already indicated in also another very important issuance of the Department of Labor and Employment and the DTI, Department of Trade and Industry. There is an issuance issued on April 30, jointly signed by the Secretaries of Department of Trade and Industry, Ramon Lopez, and Secretary Silvestre H. Bello III of the Department of Labor and Employment on the guidelines on workplace prevention and control of COVID-19. So I believe, and I was informed that there is a schedule specifically in this series. I think it is the fifth episode of this series. We will be presenting to you the guidelines on workplace prevention and control measure. Jointly will be presented by the Department of Labor and Employment, the Department of Trade and Industry, and very important department also joining us would be the Department of Tourism, who is handling or concerned specifically on accommodation establishments, meaning the hotels, the inns, no, the lodging houses, no, and other accommodation establishments, the tourism industry. So, of course, the health standards that must be followed by all workplaces, management, and workers would also adhere to the return to work guidelines issued by our Department of Health and Industry, and specifically for construction projects under the Department of Public Works and Highways. The DPWH has also issued construction safety guidelines for the implementation of all DPWH infrastructure projects during COVID, or the Department Order number 35, series of 2020 of the DPWH. So we now go to the specifics again of our employment preservation measures. Number 1 is work from home. As in details, we provided you under Department of Order number 9 on the specific, some of the specific recommendations of the Department of Labor and Employment as to work as to the flexible work arrangements, no? But this one is work from home, no? This work from home is being recommended for adoption. This is similar to telecommuting arrangement. Work from home or a telecommuting arrangement is actually, no, there is no reduction of workforce here. There is no reduction of workforce that is being emphasized. Only that some companies are not yet ready to fully operate during this time, when even though the government is slowly allowing you to operate, easing out the restrictions, but then some companies may actually see that they could not still fully accept all clients 100% or fully operate 100%. Then a work from home arrangement may be adopted, wherein some of their workers or even 100% of their workers are actually working from home, right? Or a telecommuting arrangement pursuant to the Telecommuting Act. This is a law already, by the way, issued by the national government as early as last year, I think, no? And last year also, the Department of Labor and Employment has actually issued already Department Order number 202 as an implementing guidelines of our Republic Act on telecommuting arrangement. Telecommuting arrangement simply says that instead of the location of work is the usual workplace, now you have decided, company and workers, to temporarily transfer your workplace to other location. For example, in your home, or for example, there is a coffee shop or whatever, no? This is just an alternative location other than your workplace. So when you talk about telecommuting, whether there is a pandemic or none, no, even during normal times, you could actually adopt work from home or a telecommuting arrangement, no? And it does not actually really hinge on the existence of any pandemic. The only condition here is that if the company decides to adopt work from home or telecommuting arrangement, the workers must be provided with adequate support to perform the assigned task. Because of course, when we talk about telecommuting, telecommunications and other computer technologies must and should be the ones that will be used by our workers here, so that work could be continued, no? So with those support equipments, for example, in order for the workers to fully perform the assigned task, then employers are encouraged, no, to provide these support services. Otherwise, of course, your telecommuting program will not work. So this is being advised again, whether there is a pandemic or during normal times, work from home arrangements are actually there for the company or as an option, no? Especially now that there are a lot of restrictions because of COVID-19, then we are reintroducing the concept of work from home or telecommuting arrangement as an option, no? In order to assist employers who are not yet ready to fully operate in their usual or regular site, just that companies could continue operating, and just so that workers could continue to report for work and earn salary for their living, then work from home or telecommuting arrangement could be adopted. Next, of course, so again, telecommuting or work from home, whether or not there is a pandemic, it could be adopted. But again, during this pandemic, where companies are struggling to survive, employment preservation measures are actually being encouraged. And of course, again, this is a remedial measure, an alternative to termination of employment or closure of business. So the following alternative work schemes and flexible work arrangements are again reiterated in Labor Advisory number 17. We have discussed already some of the flexible work arrangements in in Labor Advisory number 9. Now, the department again sees the need to issue Labor Advisory number 17 to emphasize labor or employment preservation measures that must be adopted just so that termination of employment or mass termination could be avoided, or closure of businesses could be postponed, or even decisions on those would not be implemented because the department of the government is providing us these alternatives that both workers and employers could decide on adoption. So the condition is that on alternative work schemes and flexible work arrangements, this is again temporary in measure. Temporary lang po ito lahat, during the existence of public health crisis only. So public health crisis has already been declared by the President of the Philippines way back in March. That's why we have strict community quarantines being implemented already, because there is a public health crisis. And until now, we are still, although in several degrees of community quarantines. Although we in Region 10, for example, is under already a modified general community quarantine. Some areas are under MGCQ with strict local action, and some areas also are under MGCQ low risk category already. But even then, we are still under community quarantine. So public health crisis still exists. We can see that in the news, in the reports of the Department of Health, as we are slowly opening up and easing out the community quarantine restrictions, COVID cases are rising. And I think we are now at, I think, is it 80,000 already? The report last night says that we have already hit 80,000. So this is quite alarming, but then again, life must go on for all of us, especially that we could not afford just to be locked down totally in our houses doing nothing. Good for those workers who are already adapted to the new normal and have all the technological equipments available at their disposal that they could have easily shifted. Already we see a lot of the very popular already are online selling measures also being adopted by our workers. They may have been displaced from their regular work or not, but as we can see, they are very successful, and testimonies have actually provided us information that this is a very good alternative now for our workers who need extra work, especially now that flexible work arrangements are popularly also being adopted by the company, or alternative work scheme, wherein not every day workers are required to be in their usual or regular workplace. No? So again, any alternative work schemes or any alternate flexible work arrangements adopted is temporary in nature. This could not be permanent because the labor advisory says that it should be adopted only so long as public health crisis exists. So until then, that the department or the government has no official declaration on the lifting of the public health crisis, then we are actually still free to adopt, no, the recommended alternative work schemes or flexible work arrangements. So what are the alternative work schemes? Alternative work schemes would actually consist of some of these are already discussed in Department Labor Advisory number 9, job rotation, no, transfer of employees to another branch. This would be applicable to companies who have several branches, for example, such that if the company decides to close one branch, those who will be displaced in such a branch that has been closed may be reassigned to other branches, so just only that employment will not be lost, no? And reduction or layoff could be avoided. Para lang magpadayon ang pagpanarbaho sa mga tao, then they could actually be assigned to other branches that the employer may still wish to continue in operation. This would include actually, no, companies who have different divisions or different units. When you decide, for example, that one unit would be closed already, no, and or one department would be closed already, then of course those affected people or affected workers in those units or divisions that are closed could be transferred actually in other units also or divisions that are still in operation. No, and of course this would include also reduction on normal work hours and work days, no, per week. No, this has already been discussed in the previous labor advisory number 9. And of course other feasible work arrangements that have already been discussed again in labor advisory number 9, which are, again, to remind you, these are the flexible work arrangements, no, that are other flexible work arrangements: reduction of work hours or reduction of work days, rotation of workers, forced leave, no. But of course, as we have reiterated time and again, these are only examples of alternative work schemes or work arrangements that companies and workers may adopt. Companies and workers are not precluded to adopt other alternative work schemes that may suit, no, the company, may suit the company and the workers, no, in your operations, because the most important thing there is that you have you conduct your own consultation, and that everyone is being informed of this of the implementation and the details of which would be discussed by the company and the workers, no. Which workers will be assigned during the first shift, which workers will be assigned during the second shift, which workers will be reassigned to this division, which workers will be reassigned to this branch, no? Ito yung mga details, no, including, for example, if there are requests for assistance for any agreement, transportation ba? Kung mag-agree kayo na medyo malayo masyado sa workers na i-assign from one branch to another, ang kanilang mga residences, then and the workers and employers may agree on transportation arrangements now on that. Even those people who are assigned for night shifts, actually, if there are things that are being needed because our area are still implementing, for example, curfews, then expectedly there are already no transportation during those times when workers are done with their shifts. Then arrangements could be made. Those are the things that we want you to agree on. No? These are the things that go into the implementation of your alternative work schemes or flexible work arrangements. So again, another employment preservation measure is adjustment in wage and wage-related benefits. This is a very controversial provision. This is in Section 5 of Wage Order number 17. Most of our labor groups are actually requesting for a review of the Department of Order number 17, especially on Section 5 because of the fear, no, that this is subject this is subject to abuse, actually, no. But again, this adjustment in wage and wage-related benefit is also a remedial measure. We know that when a company adopts retrenchment measures, it is actually on the condition that the company is in dire financial straits already, no? Such that as a last resort, they have to retrench or let go of some of their workers. But again, as we say, we want to preserve employment. So as a way to preserve employment, then maybe we could adjust on any wage or wage-related benefits that are already existing. So again, as a condition, this should be voluntary agreement. So the adjustment or any adjustment must be voluntary. It should be in writing. And again, it should not exceed 6 months or the period agreed upon in the collective bargaining agreement. Please take note that this period of implementation is different from any flexible or alternative work arrangement or even the telecommuting, no? Work from home or telecommuting, again, as a reminder, it could be implemented whether or not there is pandemic, whether or not there is COVID, COVID or not, non-COVID situations, you could adopt work from home or the telecommuting arrangement. Number 2, when it comes to the alternative work schemes or work from home arrangements, these are temporary measures that could be adopted only during the time of the health crisis. So there is a declaration of the health crisis by the President because of this COVID pandemic, then the alternative work schemes or work from home arrangements may be adopted only until the lifting of the declaration of the health crisis. When it comes to wage adjustment, the wage adjustment is again another remedial measure just so we could preserve the employment, no? Dili kung naglisod ang company, kinahanglan na siya mag-retrench, kaysa basi mo sugot ang mga workers, no? Basi kung basin ang mga workers maingon nga sige magsakripisyo sa ami, magtinabangay sa takaron, no? Para lang matabangan na mo nga dili daghan ang matangtang, no? We could agree on adjustment of wages. But again, voluntary. This is voluntary. This is in writing, and it should not exceed 6 months or the period agreed upon if there is a CBA providing for such provision. After 6 months, then the workers and the employer or management could again sit down and discuss how did we implement it. Do you think there is still a need to continue? Or do you think we need to adjust certain provisions? Murag ni arang-arang naman ta. No? Baka pwede nang ibalik ang uban, hinay-hinay, di ba? Ingana. But remember, to address the fear of our labor sector that this is subject to abuse, kay tungod man gud nga pag nag-decide ang company on the implementation of this, na maingon sila nga wala naman may choice ana, di ba? But remember, no? Remember, it should not be below labor standards because the implementation of this should not be against the law and should not be against any existing laws. Number one, we have existing wage order number 20 issued by the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board, saying that the highest minimum wage in non-agricultural sector in our region is, for example, 365. So you could not agree to adjust the wage below 365. That is not in contemplation of Wage Labor Advisory number 17. We know that some companies have reported that some salaries, for example, of your workers, whether manager, supervisor, rank and file, or in any other employment status, no? Some of them are receiving already way above the minimum wage. Some receives 2,000 per day, 3,000 per day, some more than that. Then any arrangement on reduction that is temporary, again, that would only applicable for the period of 6 months should may be adopted, no? Because this would be voluntary on your part, just for you, no, to keep up the bayanihan spirit within the company. Bayanihan in the sense that everybody's cooperation is needed for the survival of the company and for the preservation of our employment. And of course, other examples may be as being espoused by the Secretary of Labor during his interviews on leaves, no? Some of the companies offer leaves aside from the mandatory 5-day service incentive leave. Because the SIL law, or 5 days in service incentive law, says that after 1 year of service in the company, an employee or the worker is already entitled to a 5 days service incentive leave. This is a paid leave that the worker has an option to use, no, after 1 year of service, no. And so aside from this, no, this is the only leave, actually the 5 days SIL is the only leave mandated by the labor code. All other leaves, sick leave, vacation leave, no, unsa-unsa pa nga mga leave diha, no, these are based on company policies already being agreed upon in the CBA or voluntarily offered by the company as part of the employment package, no. But if companies are already providing you, for example, providing the workers with more than the 5-day service incentive leave, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, as you may agree, no, as again part of the preservation measure to preserve employment and to avoid company retrenching too many workers or permanently closing the company, you could agree again in writing voluntarily, and that again not to exceed 6 months, not to adjust on wage-related benefits. For example, instead of just receiving a total of 30 leaves, maybe pwede ng 25 during the, kamo depende, kamo ang mag-istorya, no? And so, of course, this would include the deferment of premium payments during holidays. Now, you have seen that the previous labor advisories on payment of wages during holidays issued, for example, during the Holy Week season, no, including May 1, including June 12, no, indicated therein is that the workers and the employer may agree on the deferment of payment. Dili ginaingon nga dili mo bayaran, no? Dili, it does not say that you will not be paid of your holiday premium when you but of course it just says there that as one or a way of helping, no, also you could agree on when these holiday premiums may be paid, no? Again, this is in the spirit of preserving existing employment in your company. Again, this or any agreement on adjustment of wage and wage-related benefits is temporary such that it should not exceed 6 months. After 6 months, if workers and employers says that okay na, dili na kinanglan mag-adapt ni ani, then back to normal ta. And of course, it should not go below existing labor standards. So I think that's clear already. So the reporting requirements needed here is that employers must submit to DOLE certified copy of any alternative work scheme that is being adopted, and the certified copy of any work from home or any telecommunicating arrangement that is being adopted, or any flexible arrangement that's being adopted. No? So we have a reporting mechanism already being adopted just last month. May we inform you that you could submit already online, no, any flexible work arrangements adopted or alternative work schemes adopted, or if you are still in temporary closure or decided to temporarily close still because you are not yet ready to open your business because of course there are still limitations. We accept that. We are dependent on the recommendation and mandates of the IATF on this. Of course, if you could not help it already, and you, despite the recommended work from home or recommended flexible work arrangements or alternative work arrangements being espoused or being recommended, you could not help already but decide to retrench or reduce some of workforce, or worse, permanently close, then please submit your report online. Now, we have already implemented since just 1 month ago an online reporting system, reports.dole.gov.ph. This is directly managed by our Bureau of Local Employment based in Manila. And we hope that everyone, we encourage your reporting, because the Department of Labor and Employment really needs your cooperation on this, because we need the data to inform us on the real situation on the ground. We could not be in all your companies to monitor and to check if on your situation. So we need your cooperation in providing us the needed information so that appropriate interventions, whether it would be policies or direct programs, could be crafted and made so that we could address your concerns and this problem if ever you report to us. So this is Labor Advisory number 17. So before we proceed to the next labor advisory, we could check this new video to introduce our next topic. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. So we are now on the third and last presentation. This is our Labor Advisory number 18, series of 2020. This actually Labor Advisory is being issued to guide our workplaces, no? As to issues on cost of COVID-19 prevention and control measures. No? As we know that really slow, that the economy is slowly opening up, and more industries are now being allowed to operate, although some are not in full, some are in staggered basis, depending on capacity and compliance with the minimum health standards. For example, on social distancing, on wearing of PPEs, etc., etc. So the main question, more and more companies are asking, who shall shoulder these preventive and control measures that are being mandated by the government? The mask, the alcohol, the face shield, no? The temperature check equipment, or even the foot baths, etc., no? And even the plastic barriers that are being recommended if you could not comply with the recommended minimum of 1 meter or 2 meters distance between workers and customers, for example. So who shall shoulder all of this? So this labor advisory is providing us guidance on such question. So this labor advisory covers not only our all employers, no? Of course, this covers all employers in the private sector, including contractors and subcontractors, no? So we know that in workplaces wherein contractors workers are being deployed, no? So who shall shoulder the cost of the COVID prevention and control measures that has been mandated by the law? So again, all employers, no exemption, will be covered in the private sector, including contractors and subcontractors. Next. So the guidelines says that employers shall shoulder 100% the cost of all COVID-19 prevention and control measures. So how about the contractors and subcontractors who are deploying their workers in the principal establishment? So the guideline says that those employees or workers of contractors or subcontractors deployed in the principal employer or deployed in establishments where the agency workers are being assigned, then the principal will be the one to shoulder the cost of the preventive measures that are being implemented. It is not the agency, it is not the contractor, it is not the subcontractor. It should be the employer where the workers of these agencies, the workers of these contractors or subcontractors are being deployed. They should be the one to shoulder the cost of COVID prevention and control measures. So what are the examples? We already know the COVID prevention and measures. Number one, ang pinaka-mandatory is the hand washing. So hand washing facilities must be provided. So who shall shoulder this? Of course, the employer establishment where the workers are reporting. So testing kits. Some testing kits, we are not saying that it is mandatory for employers to test all the workers. We do not say that. What we are saying here is that because there is no requirement that the workers prior to work must be tested negative. There is no requirement for that under the law or under the ITF rules. The guidelines is just saying that if you employer requires the workers reporting in your establishment to have a negative result, then and you require testing, then you should shoulder the testing cost. It should not be charged to the workers. Next, of course, mandatory ang face mask. No face mask, no entry. I think there are ordinances already passed by LGUs on this. Na even if you are outside of your work premises, then you mandatory ang face mask. And all the time in the workplace, mandatory ang face masks because you get to face and interact not only with your coworkers, but only with your visitors, your customers, your clients. So we do not know who is asymptomatic. Even you do not know if you have not been tested that you have COVID because you are asymptomatic. This measure actually is mandatory because it will not only protect you from others, it will only protect others from you who do not know and who have no idea that you are a carrier already. So the cost of alcohol and sanitizers, these are also not should not be required of and be deducted to the workers. It should be solely shouldered by the company where the workers are being deployed. So that all other necessary COVID prevention and control measures that are being adopted inside the company, it should be at the cost of the employer. It should not be charged to the workers. So meaning these are just the recommendations and examples. There are so many other measures. Kung ang company would require more aside from the minimum that is being recommended, then it is up to you. The important thing here is that the cost should be shouldered by the company where the workers are being deployed or where the workers are reporting for work. No cost at all to the workers, whether the workers are directly hired by the company or whether the workers are employees of a manpower or an agency, contractor or subcontractor. So again, we could not overemphasize this. This is in compliance with the minimum public health and safety standards issued and recommended and adopted by the government through the recommendation of our IATF, and of course based also on the DOH return to work guidelines, and of course based also on the DOLE and DTI guidelines on workplace prevention and control of COVID. So again, no cost related or incidental to COVID-19 prevention shall be charged directly or indirectly to the workers. So we ask if you have more questions, no? Especially on the DOH guidelines on return to work, you may directly coordinate with the DOH. When it comes to the DOLE DTI guidelines, we will have a presentation on that. There's a schedule already. It will be flashed to your screens later on. And of course, including for the construction companies who have contracts with DPWH, on how you could comply with the basic minimum health requirements. Please coordinate directly with the DPWH on this.
Okay, thank you, RD Joe, for your very clear and well-defined presentations on the labor advisories. As part of our learning sessions for this session, short AVPs will now be presented on the convergence programs.
Nagkasakit o naaksidente ka sa work? Oh no! Buti na lang, andyan ang ECC. Ang ECC o Employees Compensation Commission ay ang government agency na nagpapatupad ng ECP o Employees Compensation Program. Ito ay karagdagang benefits in case ikaw ay magkasakit o maaksidente dahil sa work. Pero kahit may ECC, laging tatandaan na safety should still be your top priority. Kailan nga ba maaaring mag-file at mag-claim ng ECP benefits? Number 1, kung ikaw ay naaksidente sa workplace. Number 2, kung ikaw ay naaksidente habang nagtatrabaho. Number 3, kung ikaw ay naaksidente kahit wala ka sa workplace dahil sa utos ng boss mo. Number 4, kung ikaw ay naaksidente papunta o pauwi galing trabaho. Pwede ka mag-claim ng ECP benefits kung walang diversion sa ruta mo papunta o pauwi. Dapat ay bahay-work o work-bahay lang. Number 5, pwede ka rin mag-claim ng ECP benefits kung ikaw ay naaksidente habang sakay ng company vehicle. Number 6, counted pa rin kung ikaw ay naaksidente sa activities ng company. Halimbawa, sa mga company team building at sports fest. At last but not the least, kung ikaw ay nakaranas ng assault habang ginagampanan mo ang trabaho mo. Kapag ikaw naman ay nagkasakit dahil sa trabaho, pwede kang mag-claim ng ECP benefits kung ang conditions of compensability ay nasatisfied mo base sa listahan ng occupational and work-related diseases. Pag ang sakit mo ay di kasama sa listahan, pwede pa rin ito maging compensable sa ilalim ng tinatawag natin na increased risk theory. Una, kung ang working conditions ay may health risks na nagiging sanhi ng sakit. Pangalawa, kung ang sakit ay nakuha mo dahil exposed ka sa mga health risks na ito. At pangatlo, kung nagkasakit ka kahit na sinusunod mo naman ang safety measures and precaution ng kumpanya. Samantala, meron naman tayong tinatawag na excepting circumstance o yung mga pagkakataon na hindi ka pwedeng mag-claim ng easy benefits. Kung ikaw ay lasing o lango sa alak o drugs habang nagtatrabaho at naaksidente ka, no yan. Hindi ka rin pwede mag-claim ng ECP kung ikaw ay nagpabaya o notoriously negligent ka kaya ka na-aksidente o nagkasakit. Halimbawa ay ang hindi pagsunod sa safety precautions ng kumpanya o hindi pagsuot ng protective gear. Hindi rin valid ang claim kung sinasadya mong saktan ang sarili mo o ang iba na naging sanhi ng aksidente o sakit. Bad yun! Laging tandaan na safety should always be your first priority kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sa trabaho. Kapag aksidente di maiwasan, don't worry! Andyan ang ECC to help you! For more information, pumunta lang sa pinakamalapit na ECC office sa inyong lugar. Remember, kahit may ECC, lagi ka pa rin mag-ingat ha!
Ang safety and health sa trabaho ay ating karapatan.
Ang safety and health sa trabaho ay ating responsibilidad.
Ang pagiging safe and healthy sa trabaho ay ating priority.
Ang safety at health sa trabaho ay para sa ating mga mahal sa buhay.
Para sa pamilya,
Dapat iwas sakit at disgrasya.
Pagligtas at malusog sa trabaho,
Pamilya ang panalo.
The Philippines is a home for more than 900,000 business enterprises and almost 8 million skilled and talented workers. To help these enterprises become competitive while ensuring the protection of workers' rights and benefits, the National Wages and Productivity Commission and the 17 regional tripartite wages and productivity boards, recreated in July 1989 through Republic Act 6727 or the Wage Rationalization Act. The NWPC at the national level acts as an advisory body to the President and Congress on all matters pertaining to wages, incomes, and productivity. The RTWPBs, on the other hand, are mandated to fix minimum wages from private sector and promote productivity and improvement at the regional, industry, and enterprise levels pursuant to policies and guidelines issued by the NWPC. At the same time, the NWPC and the RTWPBs are also mandated under Republic Act 6971 or Productivity Incentives Act to provide technical assistance to enterprises and the development and implementation of productivity improvement programs. Our vision: justly remunerated and productive Filipino workforce in globally competitive enterprises. Our mission: set minimum wage that protects workers' welfare, promote enterprise and workers' productivity. To realize the vision and mission, the NWPC and RTWPBs are implementing the following programs. First is a policy shift to adapt the two-tiered wage system, which provides for the mandatory minimum wage and voluntary productivity-based pay. The TTWS framework defines the space from the minimum wages as above poverty threshold but lower than average wage. While for the second tier, the NWPC encourages and enables workers and enterprises to implement productivity improvement and performance incentivizing scheme. To support these, the NWPC and the 17 regional boards nationwide are implementing the Productivity Toolbox, a ladderized needs-based approach to productivity improvement for MSMEs. It is a package of training and technical assistance designed to help MSMEs grow, expand, and become viable enterprises, creating more employment opportunities and additional income for our workers. Beneficiaries of the training programs can join the Productivity Olympics, a biennial national competition of the best productivity improvement practices from micro, small, and medium enterprises. To popularize these programs and educate clients on wages and productivity, the NWPC and RTWPBs are implementing a rigorous public awareness campaign to the Kaalaman sa Kita at Kakayanan program, which includes public information assistance, development and dissemination of IEC materials, learning sessions, lectures, seminars, and mass media campaign. As the needs of the enterprises and workers change, the NWPC and RTWPBs are also continually promoting programs and policies on wages, incomes, and productivity that are to help drive the economic growth and improve productivity and competitiveness of the country.
That ends our part one, only part one of our learning sessions for session one webinar. So before proceeding to our open forum, let me acknowledge our Regional Tripartite Industrial Peace Council, Northern Mindanao, the Board of Directors are here, and representing labor, we have Mr. Nicandro Borja, and representing management, we have Ms. Vivienne Lawanza. We also would like to acknowledge the Northern Mindanao Federation of Family Welfare Committees officers, headed by Chairperson Urchilin C. Basayo. So thank you very much for attending our session one webinar. We will now proceed to our open forum. Director Suyao is now ready to answer your questions or clarifications. Let me remind our participants to kindly throw your questions in the chat box with your name and the name of your agency, and of course reminding everyone to please mute your microphones. Okay, so let me also remind our participants that copies of the labor advisories presented by Director Suyao today are all posted in two of our Facebook pages, official Facebook pages, in DOLE Labor and Employment Education Services and in DOLE Northern Mindanao Facebook page. And also the recording of this webinar session one will also be viewed at the DOLE YouTube channel or account. Okay. RD Joff, our first clarification is for flexible working arrangement due to the health crisis to be valid, is it mandatory to have the consent or agreement of the workers?
Okay. This is one of the most repeated questions by companies that are actually implementing or are planning to implement flexible work arrangement. Just a brief background, no? The flexible work arrangement is actually not new already to the Department of Labor and Employment. because previous years we have actually already allowed the implementation of flexible work arrangements. But previous years, there is a requirement that workers consent on the adoption of flexible work arrangement must be sought or must be very clear, no, prior to implementation. But in this case, under Labor Advisory number 9, where flexible work arrangement, and under Labor Advisory number 17, where alternative work schemes, no, or flexible work arrangements are being recommended as a remedial measure for an order, no, or as an alternative to reduction of workforce or total closure of business operations. There is no requirement for a consent because, as we can see, this is part of a management prerogative that it could adopt as a measure, no, to preserve employment or to preserve the business. Now, we see that there should be an agreement that must be reported to the Department of Labor and Employment. No? Let it be clear that when management decides, no, to, for example, retrench or decides to totally close the business or close a department or a unit of a business, these are all management prerogatives. But just so that the management decides maybe there is still a way, because the Department of Labor and Employment and the government is espousing the adoption of flexible work arrangement, although temporarily, although within the duration of the crisis only, then maybe I could try this, because maybe after the duration of the crisis, maybe things will go back to normal. No? So the management also may decide to adopt any of the flexible work arrangements or a combination of those flexible work arrangements. But the requirement, remember, during the presentation is that there must be a consultation. No? The consultation actually is being conducted not necessarily to secure the consent of whether I adopt or we adopt or not, because again, that decision to adopt or not is a management prerogative. But the consultation will go on to the details. The workers and the management must agree, no? Must agree on how do we implement this, no? Kinsa man ang mga tawong mag-report ni ani na time, kinsa man ang mag-report then the next day, pila man ka adlaw ang reporting ni ani, pila ka oras ang reporting dinhi, no? Those are the things that must be agreed upon. That our advisory is actually saying. Now, if you check also in the reporting system that we have flashed at the end of the presentation talks about the online reporting system that our companies are required to do. Number one is, what are those required reporting system? Number one is on flexible work arrangement or alternative work scheme. Number two is on temporary closure. Number three is on retrenchment or reduction of workforce. And number four is on permanent closure. Remember, all of these, number four, requirement on reporting to the Department of Labor and Employment for our monitoring are all part of the exercise of a management prerogative. No? Why are we saying this? Because again, this is a measure, a remedial measure only. No, dili kani permanente nga pag adapt na kani hangtod sa hangtod na kana. Kaning adoption ni ani is only during the health crisis, no? It has an end. Dili kani permanente ang ato ang flexible work arrangement. When it's flexible work arrangement, ibig sabihin walay nawala. This is not retrenchment, no? Flexible work arrangement is naa ang mga empleyados pero dili lang dili lang regular way of conducting work ang gibuhat. Dili pare sa una nga everyday 8 hours ka naa din ha mao ni imong schedule. Karon maybe you could agree on shorter number of days, shorter number of hours, kinsay mo report ni ani nga mga inadlaw, kinsay mo pa dili mo report ni ani nga adlaw, kinsay mo report ani nga oras, kinsay mo report sa next nga oras. Those are the things that must be agreed upon. But as to the decision on whether mag-implement siya, it is management's prerogative. Again, the agreement as to the implementation, how do we implement, must be reported to the Department of Labor and Employment for our monitoring so that we would ensure that katong paunsang nga giagrihan nga pag-implement ni ana maoy masunod yun, no? So any differences, again, in the interpretation or in the implementation ay wala na ayo implement, for example, then it goes to the grievance machinery if there is any, and if unresolved, goes to the voluntary arbitration. If there is no grievance machinery because the company is not organized or has no union, then it goes to DOLE SENA, single entry approach, and if unresolved within 30 days, it goes to the National Labor Relations Commission, NLRC Regional Arbitration Branch. I hope that's clear already.
Okay, another question, RD Joe from FDLO. How do we define adequate support in work from home or telecommuting arrangements? Does this include payment for electric bills and internet charges, considering that the scheme is an extension of company time or company work?
Okay. Actually, it could be talked about by the workers and the employers, ano? Because there are beneficial measures. For example, if telecommuting, no, or work from home arrangements are being adopted, benefits not only to the company but also benefit to the workers. Because, for example, workers would not be paying any more transportation fees, no? Or any fees or costs related to the transportation of going to work every day. So yun ang isa sa mga masisave nila, no? Isa sa mga another thing is that they could save maybe on cost of laundry or any etc. because they would not need to be in office uniform while they work, you know. And while of course there are other benefits, could be they could attend while on work, they could attend to house chores, they could attend to taking care or watching over their children, their family, their elderly, no. These are some of the benefits, but of course there would be costs, no, that maybe, for example, electricity, ang cost sa paggamit sa laptop, for example, or a computer, could you compute that? If the company could provide assistance on that, including, for example, costs on or loads, cell phone loads, if there is a need to constantly be on call, then it would be good, no? Again, those things could be arranged because as we say here in telecommuting, for example, specifically under the law on telecommuting, there must be a consent of the workers. This is different from the flexible work arrangement under Labor Advisory number 9 or number 17. In telecommuting, there is a law on telecommuting, the Telecommuting Act, wherein the department order is based, or the labor advisory is based, no? So that the consent of the workers actually is being sought when it comes to the implementation of the telecommuting law. That is a requirement under the law. So arrangements, they could talk about it, no? Sayon naman kaya na siya nga istoryahan, pila maday ang cost sa kuryente sa imo, would it be kuan dili ba na siya ma-offset sa mga related costs pod when you go to work, no? Depende. If the company is very generous enough, just so that the telecommuting program of the company would be successfully implemented, then why not, no? We encourage that. Least cost, we encourage least cost on the part of the workers, because even in the pandemic, on the measures, on the control and preventive measures, it is specifically stated in our advisories that there should be no cost on the part of employer, but on the part of no cost on the part of the workers, but related costs must be on account of our employers. So I guess that's clear already.
Okay, another question, RD Joff, from Ella Abusejo. I have a question with regards to adjustment in wages. It was stated that its implementation must not exceed 6 months. What if after the said period, the company still sees the adjustment of employee wages, feasible aid to preserve employment? Can that be applied po? Or it is imperative for the company to follow the advice of 6 months?
Yes, it says they're temporary for 6 months only, right? Any adjustment voluntarily adopted and in writing must be only for a temporary period of 6 months. But the advisory is also allowing a review after 6 months. So if both workers and the company might think that there is no need for an extension of 3 months or another 6 months, no, then of course that would be respected, because again, this is a temporary measure to preserve employment and avoid retrenchment or mass layoff or total closure of business operations. This is an option given to the company and the workers.
Okay. Another question from Sister Gina Dahan, MCM. In this pandemic time of crisis, I'm asking if the overload in teaching be included in the computation of 13th month.
That is very technical question, because that would already go through how do we compute your 13th month pay. No, I guess we will have a separate topic on that, no, on how the computation of the benefits. But of course, no, I would need to consult with my technical people, but on my own opinion, I might be wrong, but this is similar to overtime pay, no, wherein it could not be part of the 13th month computation, no, because in the regular computation or 13th month, OT is not part, no, so this overload in teaching, firsthand, I think I doubt if it is included. I think that it's not included, but of course you could write to us more on this specific question, so that actually we could see if there are laws or rules that could actually support your practice in your company. Thank you.
Okay, from Archie Liberty Almaden of Delden Construction, nag-temporary closure po kami last March 20, 2020 and resume work last June 15. Need po ba ng report for temporary closure? Kasi nag-send ako sa DOLE online system, wala man nag-reply for receipt ng submission.
If you have reported already in our DOLE online system that was flashed a while ago, http://reports.dole.gov.ph. it is not actually managed already by the department regional offices. It is managed by our central office. So all reports coming from all over the country goes through directly already to the central office Bureau of Local Employment, who is managing these accounts on the reports. No, this was just implemented a month ago. Prior to that, regional offices actually has a different reporting system. But now we don't have really any control on whether or not when you register and report, if you are given feedback on that you have successfully reported. Because all I know is that when you the first step is for you to register, no? But if you have successfully registered, then of course there is a feedback for you that you have successfully registered. That's why you could proceed to the next step, which is to report. No, so when you report and you click submit report, that's the time that I have no idea. But again, we could get back to you on that maybe because if you are expecting a report. Or a prompt that we have received your report and you have not received any prompt that we have actually already received your report, then we could suggest to the central office to maybe add this as a required as a requirement, no? So that a sort of an acknowledgement receipt could be provided to all companies who are reporting. Please understand that the online system is just at its pilot stage of implementation. I think there's 1 month or wala pa gani 1 month ang implementation ni Ani. So there are still things or a lot of things for improvement, and we welcome all your suggestions on how we could improve this online system of reporting. Thank you.
RD Joff, another question from CCLPI plans. We would like to ask about the extension of probationary contract of the employees. Is it also included in the DOLE Labor Code?
I think this is actually applicable in areas with or who have implemented ECQ. If you remember, Labor Advisory number 14, a series of 2022 issued in March 30 of this year, says that the 1 month ECQ, no, period should not be included in the computation of the 6 months probationary period of our workers. So again, this is applicable only in areas who are declared ECQ, and this is applicable only during that 1 month period of declaration of ECQ. So this relates to the period wherein during that 1 month of ECQ, naka-probationary period ang workers. So what we are just saying here is that you take out that 1 month ECQ period from the computation, meaning technically there is an extension of another 1 month for the probationary period of the worker.
Okay, another question, RD, from Almar Company. Tanong ko lang po, kailangan po ba na magbayad sa mga employee if we declared permanent closure of business?
That's if based on retrenchment, no, redundancy, closure of business, or any other authorized process under the labor code, then of course there is a provision there of payment of separation pay. No? Authorized causes allows payment of requires payment of separation pay. Because remember, this is an involuntary separation on the part of the worker. This is a management prerogative to implement retrenchment program, to implement a redundancy program, or to permanently close your business. The worker has no part on this. It is not. It is not. The separation is not caused by the employee or the worker, but it is caused by the management deciding, management prerogative. So the law says that there must be a separation pay to be provided.
Last question.
Of course, in relation to that, we know already that there is also a labor advisory providing on when do we pay, the final pay, the last pay, no, the back pay, ug unsa pa nga mga klase nga mga pay nga last pay nga madawat sa worker. The last pay would include, of course, not only those salaries that have already been earned by rendering as your service, but also would include your separation pay, no? So the labor advisory says that separation pay, all other benefits that the workers must receive and have already earned that are provided in the CBA, in company policy, etc. All of these are all encapsulated in the term last pay, back pay, and final pay, no? And is due to the worker 30 days, within 30 days from the effectivity of the termination or separation of employment. So within 30 days, it could not go beyond. If you have other company, if you have other requirements as to the mga clearance, etc., no, you will really have to endeavor to comply and require the worker to comply within the 30-day period, because the law says now you have to pay them, the workers, within the 30 days period. And of course, workers, if you are required to submit to clear yourself, do not do it after the 30-day period. Kay imo nga nang sala nganong dili ka mapaybayaran because the company is ready to pay you, but there are certain company policies that you must comply, and so if there should be adjustments to be made as to the usual practice of our companies here, especially on the period of payment, then adjustments must be made so that the spirit of the law, which is for the immediate receipt by the worker of the last pay, back pay, or final pay, could be had within 30 days from the time of separation of employment.
RD follow-up question, the same from Almar Company. In continuation of our question about permanent closure of company, the branch only will be closed, the main office will still remain. Is it required for us to pay our employee?
Yes, because that would be retrenchment. And the retrenchment is an authorized cause in the that is actually a partial. If not a retrenchment, then could be a partial closure of the establishment, right? So the workers, again, walay sala ang workers ani kung ani ang nahimong desisyon sa company, no? So the labor code says that authorized causes na ay mga na ay corresponding payment of separation pay.
Okay, another question, RD Jo from AMN Industrial Sales and General Contractor. My question po, all the reports must be submitted every month, especially the DTI and DOLE interim guidelines on workplace prevention and control of COVID-19.
Yes, if this is in connection with a work accident and illness report, we call WAIR, no, workplace accident and illness report. The requirement is you have to submit the report to the department, regional office, or even through our field offices in your areas monthly. This is a monthly requirement. Again, workplace accident and illness report must be submitted to DOLE monthly.
Okay, RD, last question from the HR of LCG. Hi, sir, for the information of everyone, how do we handle employees if they will refuse to regularly report after the skeletal schedule is lifted for fear of COVID And to emphasize that an employee, for example, has no plans in resigning.
Okay. I think if you are familiar with Labor Advisory number 1, Labor Advisory number 1 says that during natural or man-made calamities, the company actually could suspend work operations, and of course it also is included in that labor advisory that the worker may opt to not to report to work if in the assessment of the worker his life is in imminent danger during natural or man-made calamity. But that is a different scenario, because we are talking here of what we call COVID pandemic, where everyone, not only your workplace, not only you, but everyone is affected. So you could not put up as a defense that only your life is in danger. Only your life is in imminent danger, because everyone is affected. So when the situation is equal to everyone, as long as the company you are reporting to is mindful to implement the minimum health standards or protocols recommended by the different government agencies pursuant to IATF guidelines, then you don't have the luxury of putting up as a defense of not reporting to work that your life and only your life is in danger, because everyone's lives are in danger. And of course, when it comes to situations like this, of course, companies are not precluded from conducting investigations, especially if the reason is there are no transportation from home to work. So especially in our region, when already transportation is already accessible, so you could not use it, or you could not use that as an excuse. What more during the height of the pandemic, when for companies that are allowed to open, it is being recommended, not mandated. Recommended that maybe because there are still no transportation that are available, not too many, then maybe the company who is willing to operate already could provide shuttle services to their workers for free. That is a recommendation. But because if you could not afford it as a company, then you may decide not to fully operate yet, because maglisod man ang imong mga empleyado og sulod, even though gusto nila. But of course, during this time when in our area where accessible na kaayo ang mga transportation, that could not be made as an excuse of a worker not to report for work, because again, everybody in your workplace and every workplaces similarly situated are experiencing the same difficulty, experiencing the same fear, anxiety, because, well, even if you are in your neighborhood, even if you are in your home, you are still very vulnerable to contacting COVID-19. And of course, as long as, again, your company, the company you are reporting to, observes the recommended basic minimum health standards, then of course you are actually being encouraged already to report from work. And again, you could not invoke imminent danger in your life just because company has already endeavored to put up all the COVID prevention and health measures para maprotektahan ang mga empleyado niya o ang mga customer, kliyente niya. Now, if you still do not report for work, then of course, regular company policies must already be implemented. with regard to such situations. Thank you.
Okay, RD from Jollibee Limkatkai. Can the retrenched employees be revoked or can we change the list submitted?
Can the retrenched employees,
Can
the
the
list?
retrenched be revoked or can we change the list submitted? So I think pwede
Oh
po
yes, yes, always, no, yes, always. But if you cannot do that in the one submitted online already, you could inform us so we could assist you, no? Because of course, in the implementation, no, sometimes nauna ang reporting ninyo and then later on you the management change its mind, no? So na ay mga amendments and on the decision to retrench, no? So you could actually report that again, and if you could not, if it would be difficulty in providing or correcting the report, then you provide us and contact us so that we could assist you. That would also be very good input, no? Because again, we are still in the pilot stage of implementation of our online reporting system. That could be actually be raised as one of the considerations because some companies might have actually wrongly reported or would like to change the report. So thank you for that suggestion.
Okay, thank you so much, RD Joff. This ends our open forum. And likewise, our first webinar session on DOLE issuances in line with the COVID-19 pandemic effects in the workplaces. We hope you have all gained additional knowledge in terms of labor rules and regulations in this time of pandemic. May we now hear a closing message from our regional director?
Oh, thank you very much, Mildred. I was informed that we have actually reached about 200 plus FB Live viewers already, you know, live viewers in our Facebook live page, no? And about more than almost 60 plus already FB shares. I don't know if the numbers are higher now. And of course, also almost 100 reactions. And we are glad that the attendance in this, yung mga nakapasok to register, reached about 377 already. So we are very overwhelmed, no? Because 1 hour ago, it has been whispered to me that we have all actually reached 7,000 plus engagements already as of an hour ago. So this is very encouraging for us, the Department of Labor and our convergence team of agencies under DOLE, no, to continue. I guess we see your interest, and I guess this is actually a manifestation that we are going the right path in providing you with appropriate information on labor and employment education service of the department. Of course, all the aim of this is for us to have a better understanding and harmony within the workplace so that we could attain, again, our ultimate goal is peace and harmony in our industries. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for this opportunity. And of course, I would like personally to thank our convergence team, no, headed by our NCMB Director, Ligaya Gigay Lumbay, and all the other heads of the different offices attached to the Department of Labor and Employment for actually working on making sure that this webinar series is successful. This launching, actually today is the launching of this series of webinars that we are having in this region, including our team in the Department of Labor and Employment proper, under our Technical Support Services Division, no, for the great support. Thank you. And I hope you could see you in the second session. It is scheduled actually on Thursday already. no, June 30. The topic, our topic here is on how we could actually continue, no, to have a safe workplace during the pandemic. So it would deal with how do we exploit, no, strategies on good housekeeping. So the 7S of good housekeeping will be presented to us by our board secretary of the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board, Attorney Virgil Walag. And also, of course, we will be provided with updates. No, I think solo lang ba si Attorney Walag? So Attorney Walag will have the full time on Thursday, August 30. So we again invite you to be with us. So again, thank you everyone, and thank you to NCMB Director Lumbay for providing us access, no, in the Zoom meeting access for the entire series of our webinars. Daghang salamat, and for more questions, it has already been flashed, no? Where you could find us through email, or and of course you are free to copy and disseminate, no, our slide, because this is our aim is for everyone, all workers and our employers to be informed and be guided on the different advisories that the Department of Labor and Employment is issuing. So again, we invite you to our next episodes of our series. Daghang salamat. I think we're overtime na ta, no, for 30 minutes. We scheduled only until 11, but it's already 11:28. So thank you very much, everyone, for this opportunity. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you once again, and please keep safe, everyone.
Tayo'y magkaisa sa diwa.